So I mentioned in my last crochet video that my next crochet project was going to be something a little bit different. This here is my very first granny square sweater that I ever made. And I mentioned in another video, I think one of the first roll for yarn videos, that I didn't like the colors with this taupe kind of silver border. I really didn't know what I was doing at the time. This was November 2023. So yeah, it was either 2022 or 2023. I don't remember which one, but it took me months to make all of them. I think I had over 100. But when I measured them, I measured when they were only 4 rows. So they ended up being way too big when I added the silver row. And I just don't like how light it makes it. And I ended up with a lot of leftovers. I have all of these. There's a lot of, I think this stack. Yeah, so this is an entire stack because I made 7 of each color combination. I had misplaced this one. I didn't notice it. I left it on the floor. So this stack didn't even go into the sweater at all. And then all of this is all the ones that I ended up not needing. You can see how I alternated the 4 colors. Oh, even these are different. You can see how those two are the same. Same, and then that's different, and that's different. But yeah, I don't wear this sweater. It's way too big. I can't even fit it all in camera. Well, yeah, I can if I back up all the way. It's just way too big. The sleeves are so long because when I measured it, I thought that that's how long they needed to be. And while I love the core 4 colors, it's just too much. I did alternating colors for the ribbing. So the neckline is the kind of mossy green. Can you even see that? That is brown. Here. It's coming off gray, I don't know why. This sleeve is the other green, and then the bottom is yellow. So I decided what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with my stack of loose squares first to see if it's even possible. But I want to remove the outer row, this kind of silvery color. And you can even see, I don't know if it comes up on camera, this one is the one that I had bought at the same time as all the others. And this one I had to buy more. And it's a completely different dial-up. This one looks more silver, whereas this one is like warmer and it's still like a silver taupe, but it's just the shades are completely different. And there really wasn't much I could do about that. But yeah, I want to see if I can take the outer row, the silver yarn off of all of these squares. And if it is possible, I'm going to then disassemble the sweater, which was sewn together with yarn, take the silver off of all of those squares, and I would also have to remove the ribbing on all of the neck, the cuffs, and the bottom. That would go first. But after I have them apart and I have all the silver taken off of them, probably sew it back up the way that I had always intended, which was using all of the squares. I may still have a few, because at the time I think I was measuring sleeves from the shoulder, even though the body is so much wider, my shoulder would not actually start there, or I should say the sleeve wouldn't start at my shoulder. But when I get that, if I get to that part, you know, I'll find out if I can use all the squares or not. I have also bought a yarn winder because I know that having a bunch of little balls of the silver yarn, I don't want to throw it away. It feels so wasteful. It's like 2 or 3 skeins worth of yarn. But if I can at least wind them up into little balls, potentially, if it's like too small of an amount to use on the winder, I'll just hand wind it. But I did buy a yarn winder because I need one anyway. Here is all the yarn that I got from the loose granny squares. It actually was a lot easier to wind them up on the yarn winder. This was the yarn from all the ribbing. The yellow, which was the bottom, really pushed my winder to the limits. It could not handle even that small of an amount. I'm making a lot more progress than I thought I would be. Look at this pile. I've only worked on it for, I want to say maybe an hour that first day. And then today, probably hour and a half. Once you start to get a lot of the knots undone when I put it together, I did it row by row, with the big needle and some yarn, and doing that like invisible stitch that you can do so that it's completely hidden. And when I was doing that, like, I would do sections and then I would go in the other direction. And a lot of my the places where 4 corners meet, I would do like extra stuff to make sure it was nice and tight. Anyway, I got like a whole sleeve off, and then I started working, like I started to cutting knots for like the bottom hem, I think it was, which was like really loosening up a lot. And then like once you start getting stuff like cut away in certain places, you can just start pulling the yarn out that's connecting them together. Just like short strands, long strands. It's actually kind of funny how like easy it is. I also found that, can you see that? Like pulling it tight. Oh, that one's gonna come out. No, it's not. Okay, pulling it tight, almost like gathering it, and then cutting it, and then straightening it out. Boom, it's undone. And I bet I can pull this one out completely. Yep, square. Hope that was in frame. I have the camera at a weird angle. It just makes things a lot easier. And then these are the intersections. And yeah, I hope some of that was in frame. I just wanted to show you some of the progress that I've made, because it was taking forever, and then like all of a sudden it started going by really fast because I was pulling yarn out, and it was just basically falling apart. And I mean, you can see just how big this pile is and how much smaller the joined pieces are. All right, so I got them all separated, and now I just gotta take that silver row off of all of them.
Oh, well, nice roll. Nice, man. Nice. 6 rolls, bro. Thanks, man. Watch this move. Oh, it's a funny kitty cat. Yeah. Wow. All right. Yeah.
I have finished removing the silver yarn from all of the squares. Here is my bag of all of that yarn plus the yarn for the ribbing. I want to sort all of the squares into their respective color combinations, because like these are not the same, because the greens are in opposite directions. So basically that's what I need to do, is figure out what squares go with which ones and sort them into piles. I don't remember how many combinations there are. I just know that each one had 7 squares per combination. I wish I could remember how many of each one, how many different ones there were, to make this a little bit easier on myself. I probably shouldn't have dumped them all out on the table, but here we are. It's just a lot of holding it out and comparing them with my eyes. Just looking at it back and forth, back and forth. I don't remember if I talked about how I made them, or I should say, you know how I made it, the granny squares. But the way I did it was I would pick a color and I would make 7 centers, and then I would make 7 second rows, 7 third rows, 7 fourth rows. Then I would have that stack of 7 of whatever color it was that I just, what color combination I just did. It's like playing one of those matching games. Not matching games, like I don't know how to describe it, just like comparing the 2 pictures, which ones are different, you know? You have to just keep moving your eye back and forth between them. Actually kind of surprised. Oh, I think the ones that are like really stretched out are the ones that were in the sweater, but the ones that aren't, like, look at the difference. This one was never in a sweater, but this one was. I'm actually surprised, because I've made them so long ago, I forgot what the color combinations were. So like obviously there would have to always be a certain color on the outside, but then the way the colors repeated on the inside, I end up with more than one with the same color inside, and I fucked up somewhere. Obviously I didn't do it's not math, but like the figuring out of like the different combinations. Because like this one, Yellow is never the center. How did I do that? Okay, there is 7 of each. And the way I had done it the first time is I was alternating back and forth. So like the first row would have 1, 2, 3, 4, I think it was maybe 5, but it would be 1 of each outside color. But I would also then alternate it so that the next green outside, light green outside, would be here, but it wouldn't be this one, it would be like one of these or one of those. I still kind of want to do that. I don't remember how I did it last time, but I decided the way I'm going to connect them is I'm going to, just for now, we'll pretend this is the layout, connect them in both directions, right? And do single crochet on the outside so you will see it. And I decided on orange. I actually was going to do black or like dark gray, but because I forgot that this was a color that existed, even though I literally had it before and made it into a blanket. So when I got to the store and I saw that they had the orange that I really liked, I'm like, oh yeah, orange. So I'm going to use that to be the connector. So it'll just be a grid of orange in between each one. I want to do a cardigan again because knowing myself, I tend to not want to wear sweaters because it's harder to regulate my temperature when I'm completely covered in something warm. I prefer having something that is open in the front. Like I usually wear hoodies in the winter, zip up hoodies in the winter, so I can zip and unzip to my liking to help, regulate my temperature because I run warm most of the time, or I get warm easily most of the time. The cropped cardigan that I just made was 7 across the back and 3 across each front section, so that it would be 6 in the front, but with 1 in the back for the neck, 1 extra in the back. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. Zoom in. I also brought up my stitch markers so I can kind of temporarily put them into piles, I guess, so that when I start stitching them up, I know how to do it. So let's start with the bottom of the right panel. So that's how I did the Roll for Yarn cardigan, 3 across 4 down. But they were 5 colors, or yeah, 5 rows, 5 different colors. This is 4, but it's a larger hook size. So with the Roll for Yarn one, I used a 5.5, and for this one, I used a 6. So they are less colors per square, but they're about the same size. I don't want to make it 4 and 4 for the front, because that would be 9 for the back, and that's just too big. 7 was even pushing it, because for the Roll for Yarn cardigan, 7 reached my elbows if I held my arms out, T-pose. But I don't want the back to come to a point. I want there to be space for the neck. I like that. have a lot of squares left, and I would like to use them all. I am going to be working on this on the couch. As I've talked about before, I like crocheting on the couch crafts, things that I can do where I'm more comfortable and relaxed, as opposed to sitting here kind of hunched over a table and not very comfortable. I will check in after I've got some progress done to kind of show you what I'm doing, and hopefully it'll go together pretty quick. Since I'm just single crocheting them, I don't have to like whip stitch or whatever I was doing before with a needle and a length of yarn. That definitely took a long time. Yeah, so I'll check back in when I have some of it done, and hopefully I'll have figured out if I'm, making it longer and also making it wider. I will start with the front panels since I know I like them three. See if I do three. I don't know. I'll check back in. As you can see, I had to break out the card table in order to figure out how many squares I needed for the back. All right, and the cardigan is done. Sorry I didn't show you any of the steps putting it together. I was just so in the zone that I just kind of finished it. So this is what I did to get the squares together. I figured out my pattern. If you remember in the last clip, I was kind of figuring that out for the front panels and the back panel. And I had to break out the card table to figure out the back panel because I needed more. I would start with like the first row, and I would single crochet them together all the way across, and then I would add the next one and the next one, and then I would turn the whole piece and then just go across all of it, connecting them in the opposite direction. Is it the most efficient way? I don't know, but it's the way I did it, and I really like how the orange kind of pulls everything together. It's a lot warmer of a cardigan, like warmer in the color. It's a lot warmer. With the old one with that like silvery taupe on the outside, it just made everything look so cool toned. Even though the darker green is pretty cool toned, this orange really pulls everything back, and it feels more like a sweater I would wear in fall, which is what I wanted. It is 3 by 6 on both front panels and 7 by 6 on the back panel. The sleeves are 2 squares long and 4 squares around. An issue that I had with the Roll for Yarn cardigan was that I did 3 squares around, and which it meant I had to offset the squares to start in the middle of a square for the sleeve, because the top of my shoulder is where 2 squares meet, and I could not figure out how to do it so that the squares would be lined up, because it's an odd number and an even number. So I had to offset the first sleeve square to be in the middle of that shoulder seam. For the cuffs and the collar and the bottom ribbing, I did use up that yarn that I had originally pulled from the sweater, the ribbing, but I didn't want to do ribbing. I hate ribbing so much. It's so time consuming, and I just don't feel proficient at it, and I don't like the way it looks when like I do it. Like at the end, sure, it looks fine, but like when I'm doing it, I don't like how I'm doing it. I have a tighter tension, but I can't do ribbing as a tighter tension. I have to do a looser tension, and there's also like I have to count every time to make sure I'm not starting in the wrong place and causing the ribbing to be an extra stitch long. There's just so much involved. I don't like doing ribbing, and I didn't need the sleeves to be really cinched with a like stretchy ribbed cuff because they're so short on me. When I was trying to figure out how long to make the sleeves, 2 was too short, 2 squares was too short, but 3 was too long. 3 squares was like halfway down my hand. and I didn't want to have it be that long where I would then have to make a really tight ribbing to keep it at my wrist, and then it would look really bad. I've had that issue before, and I don't like the way it looks. So I made it shorter, and then I did single crochet all the way around with decreases to cinch it in a little bit. So it's definitely a cuff, and it cinches to be slightly smaller, but it's a perfect size. My hand can slip in and out real easily. I like the look. I was debating about, like, do I want to do single crochet or do I want to do like more granny stitch? But because I had done this orange border around the cuffs and down the front and the bottom, I knew that doing granny stitches again would kind of be difficult because I covered up the top of the squares. So the one cuff is brown, and the other is the dark green. And then, so yeah, down the front, I just do single crochet like I did with the Roll for Yarn cardigan. And this is, and again, because I didn't want to do ribbing, I wanted to do something on the bottom that was more than just the single crochet around it. Because this one is longer, it reaches it's as long as my my arms, so all the way up to my fingertips. But I wanted to have some kind of like finishing off at the bottom, and I wanted to use up the yarn from the previous sweater. So this, I just did single crochet all the way across the bottom. Yeah, so I just did single crochet all the way across the bottom. That was perfectly normal stitch because it was just a back and forth straight single crochet, turning it around on the ends. For the like collar top of the sweater area, because I was so determined on using up the yarn that was previously from the sweater, the light green was the collar on the old one. So I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I obviously didn't want to do any kind of like ribbing or even just this down the entire front because I knew I didn't have enough of the light green. So I was decided to attempt my first attempt at a like folded collar, and I put it on before I had started anything, and I like kind of like figured out where I wanted it to start. The neckline is like this. So this is the back of the neck, one square, and then down one square on either side. Before I did the collar, they sat low, and I thought it would be low enough. So I started right from that edge of that square down the front, and I single crocheted just back and forth in the green. And when I tried it on, it was still kind of short. It was like the entire thing was used up in the fold over, so you really couldn't see it. So I was like, I was kind of thinking about, I had a little bit left over of the other color, so I was like, well, what if I do like stripes? You know how like some like polo shirts will have like that white stripe near the bottom edge of the collar? I was thinking something like that, but like doing it with all the colors, like really tie everything back in. I didn't have enough of any of the, I didn't have enough of the dark green or the brown. I couldn't do one row. There just was not enough. But I had enough with the yellow, so I was like, I'll extend the length of it by, crocheting up the side and then all the way around. So it had this kind of like yellow border on it. But then I was like, it still doesn't feel wide enough. Let's do a little bit more. So I did 2 rows of the orange just to add a little bit more length here and on the sides. It wasn't my best attempt. I was a little unsure about what I was doing, but I think it's such a minor thing that like when I'm wearing it, no one's really going to notice. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think it fits really good. Yeah, the sleeves are a little short, but that's fine. I actually prefer it over like too long of a sleeve, because so many times have I made sweaters in the past where the sleeves end up being too long, and for one reason or another I can't fix it, or just doing a tight ribbing stitch for the cuff isn't enough to keep it off, like covering my hand. This is how much yarn I had left over. I did use up all of the light green. This is just from doing the cuffs, the brown and dark green. That's all I had left. And from the yellow, after doing the bottom and the little bit of yellow on the collar. So that's how much yarn of those colors I had left. This is how much orange I had left from the skein from doing all of the joining stitches, as well as the edging and the bit on the collar. So that will go towards my next roll for yarn. And then these are the squares that I have left over. I have 5 dark green, 4 light green, 4 yellow, and 5 brown. So about even across all of this colors, which I think I did really well considering. I did think about maybe extending the length of the cardigan by like 1 square, but I didn't know if this would actually be enough to do it. So I decided to just leave it the length it was, and I do like the length. I don't think I would want it any longer. If I were to make it longer, I would have wanted it to be like duster length in that regard, but I definitely did not have enough squares to do that. And it's a pretty even spread of leftover squares. I don't have like all one color and then like a little bit of something else. So I'll maybe make something out of this, maybe like a bag or something. I don't really know. But that's all I have left for that. I'm really happy with the end result. I'm glad that I decided to fix this sweater. Just going to sit in my sweater pile and never be worn. It was just too big, too heavy, and the sleeves were like so long. They were like a foot longer than they needed to be. But everything I think worked out. It looks so much better. All the colors are more cohesive, and the fit is definitely more. And the fact that it's a cardigan over a sweater means I'll definitely wear it more. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy crochet, sewing, or any other kinds of crafts, please consider a follow. I post every Sunday, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.